Well, I don't want to give the impression that I'm battering Donald Trump, or indeed that even if I were, that he would suffer greatly if I did. But barely a month into his regime, into his second presidency, and already embassies in Dublin and London are overwhelmed with applications for Irish and British passports. The Irish have been grappling, of course, with a surge since Brexit as Brits sought a European escape route. And now, with Trump back in the White House, they find themselves inundated again, this time by Americans. Something is undeniably awry when people feel more inclined to vote with their passports than at the ballot box. And certainly the Irish processing people, the Irish embassy, of course, are utterly charming, but the Irish passport office, I was talking to people there the other day, and they were saying normally it takes about 2 weeks. Now it's taking about 4, sometimes longer. The phenomenon is not just about practical mobility, it's a political litmus test. For many Americans, particularly those with progressive or minority identities, Trump's presidency is not merely a political shift, it's an existential crisis that threatens them. His administration's stance on immigration, on LGBTQ plus rights, on racial justice, economic inequality has driven individuals to seek refuge in more predictable, less volatile political landscapes. The uptick in applications for Irish passports is striking. In November alone, 3,692 Americans applied. Meanwhile, in the UK, Home Office figures show a record-breaking 6,100 US citizens applied for British citizenship in 2024, a 26% increase from the previous year, with a particularly sharp spike immediately following Trump's electoral victory. And the reasons for this migration impulse are as diverse as the applicants themselves. For some, it's a matter of securing an exit strategy. As one American applying for an Irish passport put it, I'd rather have it and not need it than need it and not have it. And others fear that civil liberties and minority rights will be curtailed after Trump's second term or during Trump's second term, and concerns about safety, reproductive rights, the erosion of democratic norms are repeatedly cited. Many LGBTQ plus Americans, for instance, have reported feeling an immediate need to relocate because of the administration's attacks on transgender rights and the rollback of DEI initiatives. Yet beyond the progressive exodus, there's another interesting development, the rise of Americo-skepticism towards British conservatives, and Trump's cavalier attitude towards allies, his open disdain for Ukraine, his Vice President J.D. Vance's dismissive remarks about the UK, calling it a random country that hasn't fought a war in 30 to 40 years. All of this has ruffled feathers, and this Americo-skepticism is not new. The British right has long harboured a deep-seated mistrust of American dominance. Enoch Powell, a figure enjoying renewed relevance among some young conservatives, once described the Falklands War as Britain's wake-up call to American perfidy, the perfidious Americans. And even Margaret Thatcher's ironclad alliance with Ronald Reagan was not without its tension, particularly with respect to the Falklands. Now in 2025, we're witnessing the rebirth of an anti-American Tory, a species that was once thought extinct but is rapidly re-emerging as Trump's second presidency unfolds. The UK media, particularly its right-leaning factions, have not held back. The Mail on Sunday went so far as to demand that Trump's state visit invitation be revoked, while Robert Jenrick, a potential future Tory leader, remarked that Winston Churchill would be turning in his grave over Trump's treatment of Mr. Zelensky. Meanwhile, Farage, usually a reliable Trump ally, was forced to rebuke Vance's dismissive attitude towards Britain's military record, and the Tories, once eager to bask in the glow of the Anglo-American special relationship, now find themselves grappling with the reality that Trump does not share their reverence for Britain, even if he claims Scottish ancestry and eagerly looks forward to a royal visit and a state visit to the UK. The migration trend is a microcosm of this broader global shift, and when nation citizens begin seeking alternative passports en masse, it's a stark signal that confidence in that country's trajectory is faltering. Historically, migration flows tell us more about a nation's stability than any op-ed ever could. People flee war, repression, economic collapse, but they also flee uncertainty. And the numbers speak for themselves. The last time American passport renunciations surged like this was during Trump's first time in 2020. Now, in 2025, we're seeing a similar pattern with applications for dual citizenship skyrocketing. 2020, I mean 2016. For many Americans, especially those in marginalized communities, an alternative passport represents more than just a travel document. It's a shield against the unpredictability of the next 4 years. It's a ticket to a world where reproductive rights are not under threat, where climate change is taken seriously, where political discourse is not dominated by culture wars and manufactured outrage. But you know what you've got in the States now, you may well have in the UK soon. And for all the drama surrounding the Exodus, it remains to be seen whether this trend will meaningfully alter America's political landscape. The most striking element of this entire episode is what it reveals about the American electorate. Barbara Streisand leaving America. Those with the means and the opportunity to go do so, rather than stay to fight politically. The irony, of course, is that while these individuals flee, those who remain are left to shape the future. And so, as embassies drown, as embassies drown in paperwork, and conservatives discover their latent disdain for American arrogance, one truth stands out. In 2025, more than ever before, people are voting not just at the ballot box, but with their feet and their passports. And they're not prepared to accept the status quo.